Hello and welcome to the movie podcast review of Blue Beetle. My name is Shahbaz, and of course, I'm joined by my Qaida, Daniel. Daniel, how you doing today?
Hello, I thought you were going to call me a Scarab, but I guess you kind of did.
I did, but I called you the correct form. I didn't want to just call you a Scarab because then I feel like it almost sounds derogatory in a way.
It does, yeah, you Scarab.
Yeah, you Scarab.
Doesn't it? It does sound.
Yeah.
It does sound a little.
I don't like the stank.
I don't
on
think
it.
I could say that.
No,
I don't think I
you
can say that.
You shouldn't be allowed to say
I take
that.
it back.
Yeah,
I take it all back.
How are you doing today?
I'm good. You know, I'm excited to talk about Blue Beetle. I'm wearing blue right now.
Yes.
I'm a Blue Beetle fan, which is great. So I'm really excited to dive into this movie, which if you've seen our social reactions for, Shay and I, you know, spoiler alert, we did have some criticisms for it.
Thoughts.
But what I love so much about what the movie podcast can be is that it can be a platform to talk about movies. Who knew?
Mm-hmm.
But not only just talk about things honestly, but openly and, you know, fairly. But as we always do, you know, we're honest, but we're not mean. We're critical, but we're not negative. And I think that's the most important part about what we do here on the movie podcast is that if you're looking for, you know, a clickbait headline of like, this is the worst movie ever. Well, I guess I kind of just gave it to people.
Yeah.
But
it's trash.
No, but like, that's not what we do here. We're here to be honest because at the end of the day, we love all movies and we want to talk about them.
We want them to succeed, right? At the end of the day, like, even if we're not looking forward to something, we still want it to succeed in whatever way that studio or the director or whoever's part of it sees as a success. So exactly what you're saying, we will have some thoughts about it, but again, on the show, we're not going to be rude. We're not going to really tear down a film or something. It's just about the criticism. It's about the honesty. If you want to come at us in the comments, please do. Because I mean, let us know if you love the movie. The movie has great reviews right now on Rotten Tomatoes, so we would love to hear your thoughts if you do go see it. There's been a lot of great fan screenings out there. A lot of people are, you know, buying tickets to show different communities. So definitely let us know if you have seen it and what your thoughts are. You can also join our Discord where you can have this conversation as well. Our Discord is right now popping.
It's popping, right? And I think, like Shay said, like leave a comment because that's what the comments are there for. Mm-hmm. We have some great platforms that you could follow us on at the Movie Podcast everywhere. So use those channels to talk with us and let's have a conversation about it, right? That's at the end of the day, like we want to build an incredible community of movie lovers, of entertainment lovers. That's what this is here for. So use it, and you know, and hopefully we could have a good time. Also, I feel like we're preparing this interview.
We're softening this blow so much. Interview review.
What is this today?
It's a review.
It's a review. Well, we do have interviews out on the movie podcast. So we have interviews out with so many incredible people, including the director of this film, Blue Beetle. So shout out to Warner Brothers for, you know, giving us time with him on the red carpet in Toronto.
We had, just to be clear as well, we spoke to Manuel Soto before we actually watched the film. So just to be clear about it.
Yeah, just to be clear. But we spoke to him before, and also obviously we acknowledge that there's a writers and an actor strike going on. So we didn't have any other interviews for this film. Also, you know, we stand in solidarity with the writers and with the actors. You know, as Aniel said when the premiere of this film happened this week, that like, you know, this is a big opportunity for all of the actors in this film that they weren't on the carpet for, right? And that's a big opportunity for them to miss out on. So we're really hoping that, you know, the actors and the writers in the studios could have a resolution fast, because writers and actors deserve to be paid what they're owed. And there would be no movie podcast if the writers didn't write the words and the actors didn't bring those words to life. So let's make a deal happen, please.
For sure. But let's go ahead and talk about Blue Beetle. Now, Blue Beetle is starring Xolo Maridueña and George Lopez. You have Bruna Marquezine, and of course directed by Manuel Soto. Sorry about that. And of course starring Susan Sarandon, who I kind of forgot about. I'm so sorry.
I'm surprised you forgot about
There's a
her.
reason why I forgot, and we'll get to that reason so quickly. And of course the film will be out in theaters August 18th. I almost said April because my mind is trying to go back in time.
We're right into TIFF. We're not striking here yet. Maybe that's why Anthony's not here. Maybe he's on strike.
He's being scarabed.
Yeah.
That's
the new term we're going to be using.
He's scarabing right now.
He's a scarab. He's not a scab. He's a scarab.
No, but of course this movie will be out in theaters, and then thank you to Warner Brothers as well for
100%
inviting us to come watch this movie. Daniel, I would love to kind of get your first thoughts. I mean, again, right now it's just you and I sitting in this room. We're talking about this film. Tell me, what was your first reaction to this film?
Here's the thing for me. I think I want to kind of preface this with there's a lot of baggage going into Blue Beetle. And that's what I think is so unfortunate. Yeah, like that's what's I think what's unfortunate right now about where Blue Beetle is releasing at the end of August, which typically isn't always the greatest place to be dropping a massive tentpole movie. And we've been told by James Gunn that Blue Beetle is the first superhero of the DCU, but it's not the first DCU movie, which obviously we know is going to be Superman Legacy in 2025. So that already is a little confusing. And like, I know it sounds straightforward, but it's okay. But like, does
it?
Like he's the first character. It's not the first movie. Blue Beetle's going to be part of the DCU. But is this movie going to be part of the DCU? Is Xolo going to be coming back as Jaime Reyes? Are any of these characters going to come back? And I think the year that Warner Brothers has had with releases with Shazam! Fury of the Gods, which we enjoyed, we had a good time with. Flash. The Flash came out this year.
that says enough.
And now Blue Beetle. Am I missing one? Am I missing one?
No, well, I mean, we have tentatively Aquaman at the end of this year, but I think that's it for DC this year.
Yeah, so we have Aquaman potentially coming out later this year.
That's 4 movies.
So it's a very,
busy year.
Busy year, and in a year where it's like, okay, DC isn't having the greatest streak right now when it comes like to the Batman. You could kind of see behind me, like, is one of my favorite movies of all time. I absolutely love what Warner Brothers did and what Matt Reeves did with that film. And then we went to, DC League of Super Pets, its own kind of thing, animated world. Black Adam. We know what happened with Black Adam. So there's a lot of baggage going into this. And I think the brand of DC has been a little damaged by all of these releases. So I think Blue Beetle out the gate is a little bit being set up to fail. And what Blue Beetle does so well, and what I really enjoyed in this film, is the family dynamic. I love the Reyes family. I think what makes them so special compared to all of the other superheroes out there, and and Aniel spoke about this in your interview with him, is that his family, the Reyes family from the get-go, know that Jaime, has the Scarab in him, right? Like, and I think that's what's really cool about it, is that they have this connection to your brother, their son, their grandson, and they're all on this journey with him. And I think that's really cool, and that's the heart of this movie. And I think that's what works the best in this family and in this film is the Reyes family. And for me, going into it, like, I am a fan of Blue Beetle. I was introduced to him really for the first time in Smallville. In an episode of Smallville, I think it was season 9 or season 10.
Wow.
And then Young Justice season 2. And for my Young Justice fans out there,
my YJs,
my YJs, when you look at how instrumental Blue Beetle is to that season and that show, one of my favorite animated shows of all time, season 2 with the Reach and the Scarab and him finding his place. And that is, I think, the quintessential version of Blue Beetle for me is that Jaime Reyes. He is phenomenal. Go watch Young Justice season 2, because I don't even know if we're going to be getting a new season. We're in a very weird limbo with that animated world. But anyways, let's get back to the film. Let's get back on track here. This is a very messy movie. Blue Beetle is a very messy film. And I think what disappoints me most about it is that we're getting an introduction to this character, and it just feels like I've seen this movie a million times before. I don't think I've ever seen a superhero movie rely on so many tropes, so many archetypes, so many just cliches of, for lack of a better phrase, copy and paste of what we've seen a million times before.
It doubles down on them, actually.
And it doubles down on them. And it's like, it was coming to a point that you and I were leading over to each other, Shane, and we're like, this is the line they're about to say.
Yeah.
There it is. There would be something introduced, and we'd say, that's going to become important later, or this is going to be a factor later.
And I remember looking at you, and I'm like, I bet you, like, I think it was maybe like 20, 30 minutes into the movie. I was like, I think this is what the after credit sequence is going to be. And then you're like, yeah, let's see. And then the after credit sequence ended up being word for word exactly what we said.
And it's exactly that. And I think that's what's so disappointing about this movie for me. That's what it really failed to do, is really failed to do anything new. I do want to commemorate it for, obviously, like you said, the Reyes family having, like, this is the first Latino-led, superhero film. Mm-hmm. We've had Latinos in superhero films before, but this is the first time we're having a leading man in this role. And I think Xolo, he does a good job, but I also feel like the story that's given to him relies him to lean on so many extremes of emotion.
Yeah.
And it's either like super happy or just like he's being tortured and he's in pain and he's screaming.
Yeah.
And I wish that there was time for him to really, have an identity of his own. And I don't think that this movie really gives Jaime time to really just figure out who he is. He's, thrusted on this mission and on this story, and they're so at the mercy of, but what's next? What's going to happen now? You're never given time to just, figure out who this guy is. And I think of a movie that this movie really tried to emulate, Spider-Man Homecoming, where it's just like, let's have a character where, Peter Parker is this down-to-earth kid, friendly neighborhood Spider-Man, do good in the neighborhood. And I think it misses that connection to the grander scale. And also the city that they're in is a little, I'm blanking on the name of this.
Palermas?
Yeah, where it's like so futuristic looking.
It's extremely futuristic looking, and then it's inconsistent.
Yeah, it's inconsistent. So like you never get a sense of the city that they're in or the community that they're in. They're told that this company Cord is taking over. It's Cord, right?
Yeah,
as taken over, and everything outside of the tracks and here, and it's like you really only see this small like street, if anything, just this one house. So you're just like, okay, like this is what you're fighting for, but it doesn't ever like stay with it.
No,
I feel like he's just thrusted on to the next thing. So when Jaime gets the Scarab, it just kind of happens. Like there's no build up or real anticipation or feeling importance of it picking him or getting a sense why I picked him, because the Scarab has to choose you, and you never really get that sense of it, right?
A lot of the superhero elements for me just kind of felt like they were very last minute. I felt like what Aniel did, which he did really well, was focus on a film that celebrates Latino culture and Latino families and shows representation. I think that is done really, really well in this movie. But the superhero stuff came so late that it ended up just being the tropes. It ended up just being the fill in the blanks of a Mad Libs that you kind of get.
Yeah, here's the villain. He's gonna have a weird connection to the leader, and then you're also gonna be like, oh, that guy's probably gonna turn later.
Yeah,
this guy's gonna be important later, and like you just never really given anything that you could really hold on to. And I think
especially how he becomes Blue Beetle, which you kind of touched upon there, that was it's so silly that it's like, and it's in the trailer too, when I was like, oh, there's no way that it's that quick. It really is. It's silly that it's that quick, that it's that inconsequential to the moment that's occurring, that you're like, why was there no emphasis brought onto this? And immediately when horrible things happen in this movie, people are very unfazed by them very quickly. They'll kind of just get over it and be like, yeah, it's not really that big of a deal at the moment. We'll cry about this later, or we'll worry about this later. It's kind of focused on what's happening right now, which I found very inconsistent with tone. And I think what it reminded me a lot of, and I kind of mentioned to you, is this movie, for better or for worse, reminded me of like a Robert Rodriguez film. I'm talking about like Spy Kids level, where it's just silly.
Spy Kids like 3D level.
Spy Kids 3D level, Spy Kids 2 level. Spy Kids 1 is goated, so we can't insult that film. But there's just levels of the silliness that kind of just don't match with the vibe of the film. And then we talk about the melodrama in the movie that you're talking about here. It's just so overdone at some points. We haven't even touched on Susan Sarandon. I'm going to quickly touch upon her for a quick second. We'll dive into her in a bit.
Okay.
I know I'm like stabbing you with her at the moment.
But are you going to talk about her now?
I'll wait.
No, I was just gonna say, because you mentioned the melodrama.
Yeah,
and I mentioned the melodrama.
Go melodrama.
No. I was just saying, like, I just feel like it's so heavy-handed.
Oh yeah,
and I think that's where it's like there is no genuine emotion that I was feeling. This movie tells you, and it's trying so hard to tell you to feel sad. It's like, this is when you need to be sad, or this is a cool moment, and I think like you're telling and you're trying so hard to make me feel a certain way where I just felt nothing watching it at a lot of moments. And I think that's what was so depressing for me. I'm like, this is a superhero movie. Like, this is still be like, should have some just natural emotions that come out of it, but it feels very manufactured, and it just feels very just written. Mm-hmm. So many lines in this movie just feel like this was written. There is not a person just saying these things or feeling very these AI things. It's just very robotic. And for a character with like Blue Beetle, who obviously is being taken over by this alien life form, which is, again, it's another thing that they changed from the the comic books and from like the animated series where it's like this
alien life form.
It's an alien life form. It is an alien life form, but it's like it was already on Earth. So like there was not really a mention, again, like, in case I missed, I didn't hear about the reach at all in this movie.
I must have missed it.
So maybe they said, "Oh, I'm going to reach for the Scarab over here."
They were reaching a lot in this film, but not that.
Yeah, but I think for me, it's just like, man, like this is like CW level melodrama and some effects as well too. It's like
too.
There's a lot of like, if you're an Injustice 2 fan, obviously there's a lot of moves taken right out of that game.
Yeah.
But like, there's a lot of practicalness that they've used for the suit, which I respect them for. But then it kind of goes all out the window when he starts flying or starts doing his stuff. Where it's like, I don't get how, 15 years ago, 15 years ago, Iron Man came out. And that movie is still taking everybody to school with having a character who could fly and who could look powerful and look real. 15 years ago. And here we are now in 2023 from a movie from 2008 that is still outclassing everyone. And I'm even talking about the MCU in some moments too now, that you're just having a movie that just looks so real. And Blue Beetle, like, there's a moment in the movie where he cuts a bus in half, which you leaned over to me like, man, buses just...
They're not having a good time.
No, buses are just getting cut all the time now.
We have Shang-Chi, we have Doctor Strange, now we have this. I feel like I'm probably missing a few more buses.
Yeah, what buses got cut? And it's always cut straight down the middle.
And there's no one standing in a bus, even though I've been in a bus many times where people are standing in the middle.
All the time. That was my life. And I would have been...
You were a stander, right?
I would have been... I would have been split in two right down the middle. But yeah, it just happens. And there's a moment, and I want to touch on it because...
Please.
In other films, I feel like we've gone this very same thing. And, Andrew Garfield, Spider-Man films, again, these moments of like having a person inspire another character is great. And having a character look at them and be like, oh, I could be like this hero too. But this man, Blue Beetle, he was discovering his powers and he splits a bus in half. There's nothing hopeful in that moment. I'd be scared shitless if I was that kid.
Mm-hmm.
And he looks out the window. It's a little Latino kid, and it's nice. It's such a like a forced nice moment that he's looking, he sees him fly away, and I'm like, oh, that's
it's a forced superhero hope moment,
But it's like he didn't do anything heroic. He just cut your ride in half.
Yeah, in fact, he inconvenienced you.
And he dipped, and I'm like, oh, like that moment would have played so much better had he done a heroic act. Right. It's just strange that it was just like, I'm gonna cut this bus and I'm gonna run.
There's just a lot of that in this film where you're kind of wondering what is the point of this scene? Where are we kind of going with this? You're introducing characters that aren't really that interesting. I don't honestly remember any of the characters' names, minus obviously Xolo.
The movie does not linger on these characters, identities, who they are. They're such caricatures of like, oh, I'm of course related to the villain of this movie, and my dad was I believe my dad is dead, or like my dad's company was taken over, and I don't agree with what you're doing. It's like these are things we've seen a million times before,
and everyone's introduced in a way where it's like, how could you not? It was very like soap opera like, where it's like, how could you not remember me? Like I've been your granddaughter, or I'm your this, and I'm like,
it's like almost like a novella, right? Like, and
very much. And if that was the point, it's not a good way to do it.
No, because it just feels, again, it feels cheesy and like, it just doesn't feel natural. There's nothing natural to it. And like, you could have the nods and the overacting, and which you see a lot, when we have the Reyes family reacting to him having the Scarab, and them blessing themselves and them reacting, like those are funny moments, but it's like they just almost turn into caricatures of that. And it's too much.
You start to wonder, like, is this a stereotype? Is this actually how it happens? Like, there's a lot of different questions that kind of start going through your head where it's like, what is going on in this movie? The screenplay feels like it was being made up on the spot, and it's very rough. It's very silly. Let's talk a little bit about Susan Sarandon, because she comes into this movie. She's the opening sequence really in this film, and it's such a bad guy villain comic book movie moment where she's like, you guys are running late. I need to know what's going on with this system right now, and I need to get this orb. I need to get this, and it's like, what is going on? And then it cuts to every moment with her, and she's just so maniacally evil. It's very obvious that Susan Sarandon was trying to get her bag. She's like, I haven't done a movie in a while probably, so let me make some money, and then I'll pay off some of my houses and then chill for a bit, because it literally felt like she did not care what was happening in this movie. She just came in, did a supervillain performance from 1993, and then left.
Yeah, Susan Sarandon delivers one of the worst comic book villain performances of all time.
Mm-hmm.
And I like Susan Sarandon.
Oh yeah, me too.
But her performance in Blue Beetle blew me away of just how blue,
no pun intended,
blue beetled me away.
Blue beetled you away.
Of just how robotic, how desensitized, how withdrawn she is from whatever is that's happening. She's literally like, you think of like those YouTube compilations back in the day. Was it Mortal Kombat 2? Was like, but you will die. You know, it's that level where she's just like, I'm going to get you.
Yeah,
you're like,
it's really rough.
Are we past this? Like why did we think that Susan was the first of all the role for this movie? What was it about performance? There's no way that there was a call put out or a actors audition for this. This was like, oh, we probably have Susan on a contract.
Susan owes WB another film, and that's what they did.
It's really disappointing because again, she typically, I mean, she's a Best Actress winner. She's a phenomenal actress. It just, and it's not even the fact that she wasn't giving anything to do. She really wasn't given a lot to do other than yell these action figure, phrases out. But the way that she did it just felt that she was just not interested in what was happening. And when you have a hero and a villain who just have no chemistry with one another, then you don't care about their dynamic. And I think that's where I'm at. I wanted to care so much more about Blue Beetle. I wanted to care about him overcoming, his demons within, the pressure of his family, things like that. But a lot of this movie just felt like this feels like an extended episode of a pilot I'd see on the CW that has it doesn't have really any depth to it. But at least there, you would hopefully get a villain that would connect to the heart, or is connected to like the main character in some way. Like this just felt like she's just such a disposable villain that you could have put anyone in those shoes. You could have put any random character name, and they would have done the exact same thing that what she serviced in this movie, which was really nothing special.
Yeah, it's silly. It's just the CG was really, really rough. I mean, when you have a practical suit that looks great, adding CG elements to it, it stands out immediately, and you kind of start to wonder, like, what was the point of this? Like, stick to a type, stick to a formula that you want to do, and the lighting, the lightning that comes out of him, and it's just the pacing of the movie also just very, very bizarre. There's just so many scenes I'm like, well, what is the point of this? You could have cut this out and it wouldn't have changed a single thing. It's cheesy, it's corny, it has really, really bad dialogue, and I really wish I enjoyed this movie because it was getting great reviews. I'm so confused right now what was being seen. I'm sure everyone has a different lens, so people are really enjoying it. And if you are enjoying it and you liked it, let us know what you loved about this film.
Let's talk about it.
I am at a loss. I don't know what about this movie is the next phase or the next step, because again, we've seen it 100 times before. There's no consequences to certain moments. When characters pass or die or anything happens, it's like, I didn't spend enough time with this character to care that they're going. Why should I care right now? And then like you said, they force that sadness to you. It's like, no, this is a sad moment. You should probably cry.
Shahbaz, you said, as we've said 100 times on this episode. Who said it? We've seen this movie 100 times before. I want to add something to it. We've seen this movie 100 times before, done better.
Yes.
We've seen this better movie 100 times before.
Yeah.
And that's what's so unfortunate when you have a character who we're like, okay, should I be excited about, the DCU moving forward? He's the first DCU character. Should I be looking forward to seeing Blue Beetle pop up again? I mean,
I'm not right now.
No, this movie gave me nothing to look forward to. If he does pop up again, I'd hope it's done with more justice and more. It's not even a lack of respect for the character, because I don't think it's that at all. It's not like this movie mistreats the character of Jaime. I just feel like it's just such a bland story. The story is what's failing here. It's the technical parts of the movie that's failing here that makes it such a unenjoyable watch. Even the score and the sound design, so much throughout this film felt like this just feels like noise.
I'm not sure what the theme was. I'm not sure what anything was in this film.
There was some
bad lighting, bad locations.
Yeah.
And then you have another bad guy in the film as well that, from the beginning we're like, oh, this is what's going to happen to this character down the road. And it plays out exactly like we expected. The dialogue was delivered exactly like we expected. And it's a character that has barely any lines, and you don't remember. And then that last minute, they do like this montage of this villain, like in the last split second
of why he is the way he is.
He is the way he is, and it's like, I can't believe someone sat down and wrote this. It feels so first draft. And I looked at the screenplay writer for this film. And the only thing they've really done is Miss Bala.
Miss Bala, that's the Gina Rodriguez film from like 2020.
Yes, and I immediately got it. I was like, oh, okay.
We were talking yesterday. We were trying to figure out what the Man of Steel reference was.
I don't know. They said Superman. That's it.
They said Superman. They said the Flash. They said Batman is a fascist,
which we have in the trailer.
Yeah. Which they have in the trailer. We have. I guess there's the similar, again, same movie that like they did this 10 years ago in Man of Steel, where the character's kind of like pondering, like they need to like get to the next thing, and they go to like this otherworldly.
Do you think it's like when they see the other person maybe in the?
Yeah, I feel like it's like that thing. It was like, okay, we're gonna. It's like when picture Man of Steel when he's talking to Michael Shannon as Zod, and he's being like buried in all like the skulls and stuff like that, and they're in this other.
I was thinking of the Jonathan Kent moment.
Oh yeah, maybe it could be
that felt like, oh, okay, maybe that's what this moment is.
Maybe, yeah. I mean, we're tiptoeing around it. And obviously,
also that movie really quickly in the same universe, quote unquote, did flying better.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of movies. Sorry, a lot of movies. Let's rewind better. 5 years before Man of Steel. Iron Man did flying better. Yeah. Christopher Reeve's Superman did flying better. Yeah. I believed a man could fly in that movie.
Yeah.
This just felt like, again, it goes into that realm of just like, it just turns into the CGI, gobbledygook. That's just gobbledygook. That's just like, just like a blob flying. Like there's no tangible feeling to it. Like you never feel that connection to it.
There's no weight in this movie. There's no actual relationships in this movie you care about. The comedy, it works sometimes, but at the same time, it just feels like I know what the next joke is gonna be.
Or it's literally, we have the equivalent of a joke where a character goes to the washroom, like, oh, don't go in there.
Yeah.
And it's like
slapstick humor.
It's just like
hanging fruit.
Okay, like sure, like that's what you want to do. But again, like when you I always think of something like, you have the DC logo on this. Like, this is the studio that made The Dark Knight. This is the studio that gave us, the Batman last year. This is the studio that gave us Wonder Woman. The studio that gave us Joker.
Yeah.
Superman. Like it's just like, okay, like I'm excited to see what Superman Legacy can be.
But right
now, and I'm nervous. And I know James Gunn really didn't have anything to do with this movie. But I'm also at that point where I'm like, I'm not excited for anything DC right now other than the Batman Part 2, Joker 2, because at least I know what to expect with the Joker 2, more or less. There's a prestige from the first one. Right? And all of those have done the thing over like, this is like this is not part of all of that. We're doing stuff on our own. And as of right now, Blue Beetle feels like it's on its own. And if you're watching this in theaters this weekend, you may be on your own.
I don't know. Because I don't know if they are.
Because
we just checked seats and
that's what I mean. Like, if you go see it in the theaters this weekend, you may be on your own, because we're seeing prime times, opening night, opening weekend, and we're seeing in giant auditoriums in IMAX theaters that had to give up
major cities
that had to give up Oppenheimer. Like, luckily Oppenheimer's still playing on the majority of them, but it's like you're seeing like 3-4 seats sold, and it's like, this is not good. And I think in a year where Warner Brothers and DC have been getting their butts kicked, sadly, that here we are again, and we're having the same discussion. And what's going to happen now come December? Is Aquaman even going to come out? James Gunn has a huge,
chip on his shoulder right now.
Really. Yeah, or obstacle to overcome with what's coming next. And not only making a good movie, because again, it doesn't matter if you make a good movie or not. The Suicide Squad was one of my favorite movies of 2021. Yeah. I adore that movie. I think it's one of the best films of the year, one of the best superhero movies of the year. That's the Suicide Squad at that moment was my favorite DC movie since The Dark Knight. And people joke about that term, it's the best movie since The Dark Knight. It is. It is the best movie that I think DC has put out since The Dark Knight, the James Gunn Suicide Squad. That movie didn't make money at the box office. No. There are no guarantees in Hollywood anymore. Mission Impossible is underperforming. Indiana Jones, The Flash, the greatest superhero movie that was ever going to come out.
Bombed so hard.
Bombed, one of the biggest bombs of all time. Making a good movie isn't good enough. And when you make a bad movie, then there's a lot less hope there.
You can't rely on just representation to drive your film forward. I'm grateful that this film has representation. I'm a champion for it, but that's not enough to drive this movie forward. You need to have a good story. You need to have something that people aren't seeing anymore. And the thing is, this is not only something people have seen before, but they've seen it done better, like you said, Daniel. And it was rough. I was getting impatient during the film. We were debating even sticking around for the after credits because we knew what it was going to be, and we knew because we guessed it. Nothing is hidden in this film. Everything is laid out very, very easily.
Right.
I think it's just safe to say let's get to our final recommendations.
Yeah, let's do it.
Yeah, please go ahead, Daniel.
Blue Beetle is unfortunately it's a skip it for me. I think this is a movie that you don't need to spend your time on. This is a movie that even when it comes to home release that you're not going to be thinking about or looking at learning more about. It's unfortunate because I think Blue Beetle is such a wonderful character in the comic books. If you want to learn more about Blue Beetle, go read comic books. Go check out Young Justice, because I think that's where you're going to get a really rich version of who Jaime Reyes can be. Blue Beetle for me, and obviously for Shay, it didn't do it. Skip it.
Actually, I was going to say it's a real gem.
Wow.
Really awkward now.
Surprise of what we were talking about the last 30 minutes.
When I don't like a movie is when I give it the highest regard. No, it's unfortunate because I loved having this chat with Manuel Soto. He's clearly very passionate about his community. He's clearly very passionate about making movies. I think Blue Beetle as a character might not have been the best way for him to start. I think he has a great story. I think he was going to tell some great films about the Latino community, but his Blue Beetle wasn't that movie for us at all. It is a major skip it. I don't think really anyone's going to be watching this movie. And if you do end up watching this movie, let us know. Join our Discord. Read us out in the comments. But yeah, we're here to have a safe discussion. We're here to have a good discussion because, again, we want movies to succeed. And it's so unfortunate when a movie does not hit a mark at all. Of course, if you want to continue the conversation, like I said, Discord is available, but we also are available on every other social media platform out there. We're on Twitter. X gonna give it to you. We're on Instagram, we're on YouTube, we're on everywhere.
And TikTok.
And TikTok, of course, as well. Make sure to follow us on there. We're dropping some great videos, great interviews. There's a lot more coming. We're getting closer and closer to the Toronto International Film Festival. If you know what that is, you know a movie's gonna come out. It's gonna be looking a little different this year, obviously, with the strikes. So stay tuned for more information about that. Of course, that was This Time with the Movie Podcast, and we'll see you next.